We're now being joined by a former acting national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Hilliard, Etta, to discuss ex-governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai's recent observations about the state of the party's National Executive Committee meeting, and the impending campaign for the 2027 general election. Many thanks for joining us on Newsday.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'd like us to start with the NEC meeting, which we just saw a report on. We know that the APC passed a vote of confidence on President Bola Tinubu's leadership, saying he has done well in improving security and in rebuilding the economy of Nigeria. But some analysts are wondering if your party actually took into consideration the reality of ordinary Nigerians who are poorer and more heavily burdened by the policies and current reforms of this administration, with no tangible palliative measure in sight. Was this put into consideration before passing that vote of confidence on the president?
Well, first of all, let me say that the president, before becoming the president, had a vision that he campaigned on, and that vision was, captured in a document. Now, if you go through the vision of Mr. President, he had told us exactly what he has done now, and the president has wrought a lot of reforms on the body politic of Nigeria. From the removal of the subsidy to the equalization process of the naira and the dollar, the exchange rate, and a lot of reforms around the youth area, students' loans funds, and the Nigerian Youth Fund, and the rest of it. Now, having done this, it is only plausible that the party gives kudos, gives him energy and oxygen to do more for the people of Nigeria. So the vote of confidence necessarily was for him to be encouraged to do more. That is not to say that all the challenges that we have in the country have suddenly disappeared. But what we see is that Nigeria is going in the right direction. In terms of the foreign exchange regime, in terms of price of crude petroleum products, even in terms of the cost of food, the country is going in the right direction. It is not as much as we should expect or should have, but nevertheless, the country is going in the right direction, and it behoves on the party to put some wins on the sail of Mr. President, and that's exactly what the party did yesterday.
All right, let's talk about the absence of former governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, from the NEC meeting there. And of course, in an interview, he said that as against what people thought, public knowledge, that probably the National Assembly rejected him. It was the president that didn't want him in his cabinet. And some are reading meanings into the absence of El-Rufai and also Yahya Bello from the NEC meeting. Let's talk about these two issues.
Well, first of all, the former governors of our party are not members of NEC. So El-Rufai and Yahya Bello were not expected in the NEC meeting. Perhaps you're talking about the caucus meeting that harbors the former governors. Constitutionally, the president has a prerogative to appoint or not to appoint anyone into his cabinet. So if the president appointed him and at some point changed his mind, it is only the prerogative of Mr. President, and nobody can take it away from the president. So if that is the understanding of Mr. El-Rufai, and if it is the truth that Mr. President, after nominating him, changed his mind, it is completely under the purview of Mr. President.
Now, El-Rufai also says that the APC lacks internal democracy, and he said that unless the party retraces its step back to the vision and ideology of the founding fathers, he may move to another party, even though he was quick to clarify that he's not the one leaving the APC, as the party has already left him. What's your reaction to this?
You know, party politics, sorry to say, party politics has a policy of free entry, free exit. Now, it is the prerogative, it is the privilege and the right of Mr. El-Rufai to move to any party of his choosing. Now, it is, for me, it is taking the argument too far for Mr. El-Rufai to begin to look at, to begin to tell the world how undemocratic this party is. I don't know in which area that concerns El-Rufai that the party has been undemocratic. First of all, El-Rufai was governor for 8 years of Kaduna State, and one cannot testify to his grand liberal democratic credentials in that state. So I mean, the party, our party, is a growing party. We are only about 10 years, and most other parties in the world, before they come to its ideological identity, before they acquire their ideal identity, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of things to get to that. So for El-Rufai to now begin to talk about the internal democracy and the lack of it in the party is, for me, begging the issue.
All right, Mr. Etta, still speaking on what El-Rufai said, he didn't mince words when he said, and I quote, that the president's appointment, because he hit out on the president's appointment, the president's appointments are not just being made because the appointees are Yoruba, but because they are his boys. He has accused the president of just bringing in his cronies into government and not using meritocracy as a yardstick of appointment rather. And some have questioned that is the reason why Nigeria finds itself in this quagmire, so to speak, because they accuse the former president, Buhari, of doing the same thing, notizing his appointments. And right now, people have also accused the sitting president of Yorubalizing his appointments. And hence, when meritocracy takes a back seat and cronies...
You're very quick. You're very quick to assume that Nigeria is in a quagmire. I don't know where you did the research to come to the conclusion that Nigeria is in a quagmire.
People will say, Mr. Etta, when you look at the inflation numbers,
you have to be saying,
when you look at the inflation numbers,
please, may I answer this question? May I answer this question? When you talk about quagmire, you know the meaning of quagmire. Yes, I do. Many countries have the same problems of inflation, and the inflation of Nigeria is coming down. When you're talking about Nigeria is in a quagmire, Nigeria is a quagmire. Nigeria is facing a lot of reforms brought about this consequential president. And today, by the special grace of God, we are seeing Nigeria go in the right direction. So Nigeria is not in any quagmire. Nigeria is not in any quagmire. And I must tell you that Mr. El-Rufai is not in a position to tell us whom Mr. President will employ in his government and whom Mr. President will not employ in his government. This is not the first time we have had a president in Nigeria. I wonder in the last 8 years that we had Buhari, whether Mr. El-Rufai had the temerity to come to public space and be questioning the kind of characters that Mr. Buhari appointed into his government. So it is a new thing. It is a new thing for Mr. El-Rufai to now brand himself as a liberal Democrat who is very interested in the kinds of persons that serve in government, simply because he was refused, he was rejected by the National Assembly and not refused to serve as minister, refused as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now everybody is bad. The president is bad. Oh, everybody that is serving in government is bad. If Mr. Rufai had been appointed, if he had been cleared as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I wonder whether the narrative would have been the same.
All right, just to clarify this, according to the Oxford Dictionary, just to clarify that, Mr. Etta, I say stand by my word there. Quagmire simply means, by the Oxford Dictionary, an awkward and complex situation. And that is not far-reaching. If you were to define where we find ourselves here in Nigeria in this present day and age.
That is your opinion. Opinions are easy. Opinions vary from person to person. The fact of Nigeria today, the reality of Nigeria today is that Nigeria is moving in the right direction, and that is a fact. And that you cannot argue.
Now, you talked about it taking years before the APC discovers its identity, but this seems to buttress allegations from critics that the APC lacks ideology and simply came together for the purpose of grabbing power for selfish reasons and to fulfill personal ambition, which then begs the question, where does this leave Nigerians who are yearning for good leadership?
I am one of those in the APC that desires and the APC has a distinct ideological identity. I am working with partners in making sure that we also bring some little pressure to bear on the party so that we move to where we ought to be. One of the reasons that we have this kind of questions around the party is because perhaps in our quest to win the 2015 election, we allowed certain characters that are not progressive-minded into our party. And today, some of them have taken positions in the party that has tainted somewhat the progressive credentials of the party. But the party, being a progressive platform, is rediscovering itself. And by the special grace of God, in no distant future, Nigerians will be able to identify the ideas and the ideals that are distinct and distinguishes the APC from other parties.
All right, Mr. Etta, as we look at 2027, although the NEC have said there is no vacancy in Aso Rock, but some would say that the northern dynamics might be a little bit trickier than that as we get closer and closer to 2027. Do you think that the Northerners at this moment are considerably happy with how things will play out? Or are we going to be seeing probably a shift of allegiances, like some are probably insinuating right now as we build up to 2027?
Well, nobody has done any research as to where the Northerners, the average Northerner stands in all of this. People have come out, people who have political coloration, people who have political interest to protect, they have come out to say one thing or the other about what the Northerners feel. But we are yet to conduct a consensus, a referendum. We are yet to do a research on what an average Northerner wants at this point. I believe that everybody that is vulnerable, whether the person is from the north or from the south, has been impacted by the reforms of this government, and that the government is very aware that these reforms must succeed for those vulnerable Nigerians, whether they are in the north or in the south. Now, if anybody begins to talk about, oh, this is what the north will do on behalf of the Northerners, you need to ask him where he got the mandate from. Have the Northerners come together to tell anybody to go and speak their minds for them? See, these are some of the things. And let me tell you, Nigeria, we are in 2025. We are not in the pristine ages where people will come and intimidate people with all manner of rhetorics. Nobody is going to be intimidated by those rhetorics. Every person that is a Nigerian has a single vote in 2027, and he will cast that vote, whether the interest of the sharks are satisfied or not. So for me, it is too early in the day for us to begin to talk about where the North stands, where the South stands, where the Southeast stands. Let us have governance. Let us allow the reforms that Mr. President has brought to bear fruits as it has started bearing fruits, So I am not going to be part of the debate about what the North is demanding or where the North stands or what the North feels. As I am not also going to be part of the debate of what the South stands for, what the South feels, or what the South. I mean, these people who keep talking about the South and the North, they should just go and bury themselves, bury themselves I lack words to describe what they should do, because Nigeria needs patriots. Nigeria does not need northern irredentists or southern irredentists to come and tell us what the people of the South want and what the people of the North want. We want leaders who will come and tell us what the Nigerian person, the Nigerian individual, the Nigerian wants and what he needs. And these persons who come to revise the history of Nigeria on a daily basis have had opportunities of pretending over Nigeria. In their various bits, we have seen how much they have been able to do to change the trajectory of Nigeria. So they should not come here and revise the history of Nigeria for us.
Now, I'd like to take us back to the issue of the NEC meeting. Some analysts have expressed concern over the absence of key figures like former President Muhammadu Buhari and his vice, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. This, they say, seems to suggest that all is not well with the APC, as your party would like us to believe. Can you react to this?
Well, I think the former president has reacted. I have read the reaction of the former president, and he said, exactly. So why would anybody believe anything otherwise? The man has said he got the notice late, and so he couldn't make it to Abuja. All what we can do is to blame those in charge of the administrative processes of inviting those who are to be invited for NEC meetings and caucus meetings.
But isn't that also the same thing?
It cannot be said that because
isn't that also the same thing that El-Rufai said? He also claimed to get the notice late. So is your party deliberately trying to exclude
El-Rufai is not a member. El-Rufai, with all due respect, El-Rufai is not a member of NEC. With all due respect, go through our constitution. No former governor is a member of our NEC. And so he could not have been invited.
All right, Mr. Etta, just before we go quickly, you spoke about rhetorics and reforms. I want you to just touch on, shouldn't the APC be more concerned about their image? Because a lot of people were disgruntled about how the elections played out in 2023. When you talk about reforms, should we be expecting electoral reforms that will give Nigerians the voice and empower them to go out there and exercise their franchise?
Well, you have to know that I have said it over and over again. This president is a reform-minded president. And I said to media people, I think yesterday, that sometimes I wonder whether he thinks about 2027 at all. He is a man who is imbued with the courage to do what is right by Nigeria. And I strongly believe that reforms in the area of the electoral process will be brought to bear. I believe that reforms in the educational sector will be brought to bear, even in the trade sector. So there are so many areas of Nigeria that need reforms. But the ones that he has brought, we have seen that it has...
Well,
yes.
You certainly seem to see the president a lot different from the way ordinary Nigerians see him. But we do want to thank you so much for joining us on Newsday. We are completely out of time. Former acting national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Hilliard Etta, thank you so much for joining us on the program.